Good afternoon, everybody. We'll give it just another minute or so, just for the final few people to come in. Thank you for taking your Friday to attend this. Okay, let's kick off. Thank you for taking time to attend this webinar. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. Hopefully you'll find it interesting and informative. So just a quick introduction. My name's Keith Glancy. So I work for Infobox. I look after the Solutions Architect Group for Western Europe. Been with Infobox now for 6 months, so that makes me an old hand for Infobox. So what are we going to talk about today? Mainly about security of how do you manage and how do you secure the work from home environment and the remote workforce that we're seeing a huge spike in at the moment. I'm going to touch on some of the cyber threats that people who do home working or who have remote devices that they need to look out for and organizations need to be aware of. Then I'll touch a bit on how can we extend the enterprise security from work from home users. Everybody's dialing in remotely, everybody's using the internet. So how can you extend that enterprise security, and how can we help do that? We won't be doing questions today, but on Monday you'll each receive a follow-up email from Infobox with the details of some material that you can get hold of, and also, if you do have any questions or anything, if you're interested in this, we will be offering a one-to-one session with some of our people from Infobox, so you can take advantage of that. So let's go. So the challenge of securing work from home, we're living in a very strange times at the moment. You call them crazy times, you call them unusual times. That COVID-19 has put a lot of companies into implementing a work from home strategy, and sometimes that strategy wasn't in place beforehand, and organizations and companies have been forced to implement that at very, very short notice. And people who don't normally work from home will find it, or potentially will find it, an unusual thing to do. People like me, I'm lucky. I have the capability of working from home quite a bit with Infobox, so it's not a difficult thing. However, it's difficult to remembering what the days are. One of my friends who guided me today was Friday, and last weekend was a long weekend, and so it's difficult to do. So, what preparation can people do? Well, they can make sure that everything's up to date. Make sure that their antivirus software, if they have it on devices, is up to date. Making sure that VPN access is up to date if people use VPNs. It's all pretty sensible things to do, but sometimes these just get missed. Part of it is about workforce education. Some companies spend a lot of time reminding their employees when they get an email. Don't just blindly click on an attachment if it's from somebody you don't know, or if it's from something that you don't recognize. Please don't click on that. And it's about educating the workforce that by doing that you may open up your device, and hence the company's infrastructure. You might open up your device to malware, to phishing attacks, whatever, and even worst case, data exfiltration out of an organization to a third party. Even though people are working from home, they still need to access corporate applications. So that an employee should be able to work from home as easily as working in an office. But as I said earlier, some of the implementations have been put together very, very quickly. So, teleworkers, people work from home, need to access the corporate applications. Many of which these days are in the cloud. Things like Office 365 are all easily accessible from the cloud, but some of the data is still held within organizations. If you don't do these, then one opens oneself up to opportunistic attackers, and we're seeing more and more and more of these attacks taking place, even just since the COVID-19 virus came through. So that's just a bit of background. I hope it's all pretty self-explanatory. So let me just go through some of the threats that we're seeing, not just from our side, but from the industry side as well. So the threat number one is malware campaigns, be that malware, be it phishing, be it whatever. So there are a lot, and I'm sure you've all seen the news on this. There are a lot of COVID-19 themed spam emails. I think one of the latest ones was something called Formbox Interstealer was identified as spoofing who delivers the mal spam campaigns. There've been mails purporting to be from the World Health Organization giving COVID-19 updates. And of course, these are all just phishing or malware attacks. So two of the main ones. So Tesla is what we call a keylogger. It can capture and store keystrokes and potentially steal credentials and information from forms that people fill in online. They can also exfiltrate that data to a command and control server that is run and managed by the criminals who are executing these attacks. One thing that Tesla can do is it can steal data from the victim's clipboard. So if you have people who copy and paste a lot and copy and paste confidential data, Tesla can go in and take that off the clipboard on a device. And more worrying for the individuals is that it can steal videos and pictures from a connected camera. So that is a huge invasion of privacy. So the second one is Lockybot. So in the first week of March, the Infobox Cyber Intelligence Unit noted the Lockybot Interstealer joined the list of malware campaigns that were being distributed by these cyber criminals. They were taking advantage of the fear and interest in the spread of COVID-19. And interesting enough, between March the 3rd and March the 6th, we observed two malicious spam email campaigns distributing Lockybot under the guise of providing information on the coronavirus pandemic. So Lockybot has become more popular with cyber criminals, and they use this as an information stealer that collects credentials and security tokens from infected machines. Now, Lockybot isn't just targeted at one application; it targets multiple applications, and some of those Firefox, Chrome, Thunderbird, as well as FTP, File Transfer Protocol. What we found was the email messages of the primary campaign had two subject lines. One was to be a supply chain update in the context of COVID-19. The other was a more typical payment transfer theme. So, if you receive this and you can't get to a bank, send the money to your bank via this website. And both sets of these messages, interestingly, had attached files with exactly the same file name that delivered this malicious code. And the third one is something called Azorult, which again, this is an interstealer. So this takes information, once it gets embedded onto a device, onto a laptop, MacBook, once it gets embedded onto a device, it steals a victim's credentials. But it can also steal Bitcoin wallets, chat logs, and files. So it's pretty comprehensive what it can try and get hold of. It can also take screenshots of the infected system and transmit them to the attacker, so that if you're doing something confidential, the attacker could potentially look and see what was being done on that. I don't know whether anybody saw the news today, but there was an article from Google saying that they are blocking 18 million hoax emails to Gmail accounts. That's 18 million hoax emails a day that Google are blocking. Just the number is just amazing. And then just yesterday, there was something called the form book info stealer, was identified to be spoofing the World Health Organization, which I referred to earlier, to deliver mail and spam in a campaign. And then the CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency in the US, issued an alert for these work from home vulnerabilities to make organizations, to increase organizations' awareness of exactly what was going through. So this is the threat number one that we're seeing. The second threat is something that we call lookalike domains. So this is where you receive an email from somebody to say that I am such and such from this company. Typically, a lot of them work by banks or by saying I'm from XYZ Bank. Your account is under threat. Click here to make sure that your account is still safe. And just my wife had a text from what purported to be from Apple support, saying that somebody just bought an application on her device and to click the link. And of course, when you look at the Apple support and you expand that out, that is from a spurious email account. So it's not unique to business, and it's also targeting personal people as well. So customers. So if you have customers who fall victim to lookalike domains, what does it mean? Well, the attack is trying to impersonate your website. So that it's delivered to you by a phishing email, either by social media, or as I mentioned, by mobile messaging. And these links, these malicious links, may deliver malware or present a fake website which looks identical to the original website, the real website, to collect sensitive information such as fake company web page, asking users to log in. Now, this may result in stealing data, but for organizations, it may well damage the brand and the visibility within the marketplace. The second part of this is the employees targeted directly at the employees. So what could happen here is that attackers can impersonate the brands of business partners, vendors, or service providers within the organization. They then, if you have a trusted relationship with those organizations, you can trick employees into making mistakes, renewing contracts and falsely. And also what may happen is that if you've got a gym scheme, for example, or a travel agency use, that they can then be impersonated by these lookalike domains. The third piece they could do is impersonate unofficial relationships that the organization, the company has with local businesses such as restaurants. So if you're in a, for example, you're working in London and you have your office and you regularly go to a restaurant around the corner, then the mails might try and impersonate those restaurants, and again they'll try and steal data or try and extract financial gain from the individuals. And moving on to threat number three that we're seeing. Now this is a bit more subtle. This is not just trying to take financial details. This is data exfiltration over DNS. So DNS using port 53 is always open. I'm sure we all aware of that. So the first thing a device has to do when it gets a network is get an IP address. And so DNS is always open. which is why DNS is often used for the passing malware in and taking data out. So what happens here? So the malware gets access to, as it says there, the sensitive data on the compromised device. That slide filled out. But then the malware starts to look for sensitive data of any type. At that stage, the malware is just trying to get data out to the cyber criminals on the site. So it could be banking records, could be spreadsheets, it could be network attached locations, giving them more information about how the organization works. It could be file shares, and it's starting to grab all of the data. The final phase is that it uses DNS to tunnel the data out of the organization. Quite often, the DNS server is not going to inspect the traffic. It's just going to allow the packets in and out because, as I said, the DNS is open, and the port that it uses is open as well. So there are no checks and balances on the DNS data that goes out. That's the third threat that we see. So what do we see? What are the common attack steps? So what are the core elements of common attacks? How do these work? And what we're seeing is predominantly these are common to most things. There will be differences here and there, but we take this as a pretty common story about how cyber criminals that try to attack and try to infect devices with malware. So the first thing to do is the user sees a web page, clicks on it in a file, be it an email or some things we mentioned before, and they're redirected to a malicious website. So the malicious website is using DNS to direct the victim to their website. So again, it can be phishing, malvertising, social engineering. So DNS is used to look up and find a malicious site, and the user is then directed to that malicious site. What happens next? So the website delivers the initial exploit. So what it does, it just downloads a little bit of software, and it looks for something to attach itself to. So it could be Java, it could be JavaScript. But once it's in there, then the start of the infection is taking place. It's looking for devices that haven't been patched. So it's looking for applications that haven't been patched and are not that secure. So that's the second thing it does. The third thing that happens is that the code that was initially downloaded, once it finds a vulnerability, it launches its request to the command and control server down there on the bottom right-hand side. So again, the command and control server has a DNS lookup, and the request gets sent directly to that. And we can probably all guess what the fourth step is. The command and control server then sends a payload down to the physical device, and then the device is infected, and they can do more or less as they wish on that device from this point. They can lock it out. They can steal data. They can actually stay dormant for a long period of time, and then suddenly become active later, months later, if that's what they require to do. So I mentioned that DNS is pretty open. I mentioned that DNS is used to put the data in and also to take data out. So what can we do with DNS intelligence? How can we increase security with DNS intelligence? So we need to have a DNS platform that can leverage threat intelligence. That is huge database directory with no malicious destinations on the internet that is constantly being updated. we subscribe to it, we update it, but many organisations also do the same thing. And it's a big partnership that everybody who finds a malicious website updates the directory, because then that becomes the fundamental knowledge for to try and help stop these attacks. Next, what can we do? So the next one is, if you're going to connect to a website, that then gets blocked in DNS. So the malicious website is blocked. So somebody sends an instruction to go to this website, look in the directory, and they said, that's a known malicious website. So we'll block that. And so the rootkit, the initial piece of software that the cyber criminals put into a device, the rootkit is then blocked. It will not be delivered to the device. So this is a pretty proactive mechanism for protecting the device from initial infection. However, what do we do if for some reason that was already on there or that got through? How do we cope with that? So this is where the rootkit could have infected the device outside the organization, for example, on a memory stick or another laptop or a private laptop, and then that is brought back into the corporate network. So what we can do is, when this device tries to connect back to the command and control server, we can look at the request, the DNS request, and we can deny it. So we will not allow access to the command and control server, thus preventing any download of any malicious payload from the command and control center. So you can see by one example, it looks relatively easy to get data onto the device, but using the threat intel and using the DNS security, we can try and prevent that, or actually be very successful at preventing that. So the next few slides, I'm just going to talk about blocks on threat defense. I'll go through this quite quickly. The intention not to do a PR campaign for InfoVox, but to provide information on what people are trying to fight against at the moment. So what does blocks on threat defense do? Well, I think, as mentioned earlier, it secures the work from home connections as far as possible. So everybody who has one, you can have a lightweight application put onto both MacBooks and Windows machines, and it works to secure those connections. It applies that enforcement on DNS that doesn't make it as open as it was. So it puts user details into each DNS request, so you can see which user is doing the request, and it gives it an added level of security. It works with cloud applications. It works with on-prem. It works from home, and it's the first step of the prevention. And the first step of the prevention is preventing people who work from home or who are remote from the office. It prevents those workers from accessing websites associated with either phishing, ransomware, or other malware capable the malware capable devices. And the other thing it does is it blocks the DNS exfiltration. I've got a case study which I'll come up in about 2 or 3 slides, and one of the things they were really bothered about was confidential data being taken out of the organization and either sold to competitors or sold to people who could make use of it. And it gives visibility on compromised devices. So it lets IT and security security groups within company. It alerts them if this device the user is using is suspected as being compromised, suspected of being infected. So it gives that visibility. So what do we do with the threat intelligence? If you start to use analytics with threat intelligence, and use analytics with the directory, there are two sides to it. So the behavioral models will use machine learning based analytics. And what that will do, that will fight DNS data exfiltration. It'll whitelist applications. And also it helps fight things like virus malware or the zero-day malware attacks that we've seen over recent months and years. And we also we provide a high accuracy, of IOCs or indicators of compromise. So it lets an organization identify when a device is potentially infected. You can also try and back them out and do some reverse engineering on affected devices if necessary. And it provides protection against ransomware, malware, the malware command and control. I used an example earlier on, but also phishing and exploit kits that are becoming more prevalent. So about content filtering. So the first thing, a lot of organizations have compliance where they say that employees using company devices or company laptops, they want to limit what people can go and visit and go and see. So the compliance along, you see the examples there, violence, social media, etc. So we can provide a list of DNS resolutions that prevent people going to those sorts of sites that are outside of that compliance with company policy. The second one is efficiency. So this gives the capability for admins to review activity. It lets admins, if they want to explore browsing history, it lets admins go and see what someone's been using their corporate laptops for. Now, of course, this may not be relevant in all areas. It could, users could see it as a big brother watching them, but a lot of organizations do have these rules, these compliance rules, and it's important that people adhere to them. And the third area, it provides a higher level of control. So it automates a lot of the policies that the security team have, and it gives an extra bit of control to both IT, networking, and security departments. So what about the lookalike domain monitoring? How do we help with that? So how do we look at how do we work with and prevent the lookalike domains? So as the example I used before, so you get an email from your bank. It says go to this website, which looks identical to I think I said XYZ Bank before, but we use ABC Bank because it's just different. So what can they do? What can we do with this? So firstly, the customers can submit their domains, to Blocks 1 Threat Defense Advanced, and they can say these are the domains we've got, and we can go and look and see if there's any similar domains or if there's people pretending to be those customer domains. What next? Well, the Infoblox Cyber Intelligence Unit within Infoblox, we can then determine the risk of a list of high-risk lookalike domains that are purporting to be a real live company domain. So we can go and look at that, and we can go and check on that. If we find any, or if we suspect any, we can notify the customers of any suspicious activity related to these domains for visibility, and also as an advanced warning for proactive action. So one of the things so this is a lot that this has been talking about is about linking back to the on-prem network and security within organizations. But we do have the capability of providing a Blocks 1 agent, and what this can do is this can use Infoblox's DNS in the cloud. So it's a very small lightweight agent, as it says there. It sends, I mentioned before that DNS data is just passed straight through, but we can embed client identity in DNS packets so that people can see can get a view as to whether this is real or if it's not. This can be employed centrally in the cloud, so it doesn't need somebody to need to take down the Windows and Mac machine into the office. This can be centrally managed and centrally controlled within an organization, which makes deployment very quick and relatively easy. This is a very busy slide, so I'm going to just pick out a few highlights. The basic story here is that it's not just about on-prem. More and more people are moving to the cloud, and I think what we'll see, and this is just my view, is I think we'll see that the way people work a month ago has changed dramatically, and I think we'll see some organisations who decide that actually having people work from home is potentially a good thing. I think a lot of people will say, we've got a lot out of it. But there are still companies, and yours may be one of them, there are still companies who will want to have an on-prem, people in the office workforce. But I think we'll see more of a move towards the work from home piece. So the threat defense security, so it improves the security operations center. It helps them do things quicker. One of the things that, for example, if a device gets infected, we have interfaces into the huge ecosystem. So, for example, if a laptop gets infected, the security, the SOC identifier, then with intelligence and machine learning within Box1, they can raise a ServiceNow request immediately, which can either do one of several things. It can either totally isolate and quarantine the device, and then send an email to the network team to say this device has been quarantined, it is infected, and then take remedial action as necessary. So that could be to run antivirus software, or it could be that it's so bad that it gets taken off the network, and the user then has to bring it into the office to have it rebuilt. It's the extreme way, but all of this works within the product, and as in the right-hand side there, you see the different ecosystems we work with. We work with firewalls to help them identify bad traffic. We work with, as I said, people like ServiceNow, the ticketing systems. There are many interfaces we have with many other organizations that we work very, very closely with. So just a quick case study. I'm not going to go through it all. You can read it all there. But I think the one thing I did mention before was that they were concerned. They were doing a lot of research projects within the Seattle University, and so they were absolutely paranoid about these research projects being exfiltrated out to third parties. And you can imagine in Seattle and the part of the world where they are, there are a lot of industry-related research that was going on. So you look at Boeing and Microsoft, there are a lot of large organizations around there. And the students at Seattle were working with these organizations, and so it was absolutely imperative that these research notes were kept confidential and weren't leaked out to the marketplace. And so we help with all that. You can read the code. You'll get I believe you get a copy of the slide, so you can read the quote. But it's all the things I've been talking about. So it's the automated reporting on student and staff browsing history, so they know what people have been doing. And protections by the transient populations, not just everybody sitting in an office, not just everybody sitting in classrooms. The university population was very, very transient. Excuse me. So, winding to a close, There are a couple of web pages which we will give you access to. So one of the things I mentioned on Monday, we'll send out the links to these pages. So one is you can download the threat to end software and have a try of it. And the second one is we make available the data that we have on various campaigns. So the example there is the COVID-19 infrastructure, which I refer to at almost at the very start. So we'll give you access. We'll send the URLs out for these. And that's it. The other thing we'll do is we'll give you the opportunity to provide feedback, but also if you have any questions, we're happy to run one-on-one sessions where we can take take those further. And finally, what are the three takeaways? I think universally we agree that the number of teleworkers, home workers, American side there, the number of home workers has increased exponentially since the lockdown started, and it's laid organisations who aren't as well prepared with their security applications and their security policies, has laid them open to potentially serious attacks. And I said it's not just the stealing of data, it's not just the stealing of money. I'm guessing the last thing a chief marketing officer or a chief finance officer wants to do and wake up in the morning is to find that, like Travelette, they've been locked down. So it's the peace of mind and the brand damage that these organisations could potentially suffer. So it's all of those. Leverage DNS to provide some of that foundational security for work from home clients. And it's the hybrid approach, so it's the on-prem and the cloud. It's both approaches. We're not saying it has to be this way or it has to be that way. Most people now have a cloud strategy. Most people have a hybrid cloud strategy. And we're flexible enough, and we work in both environments. And you'll see the thing on the screen there. Securing work from home employees against cyber threats, both personally and professionally. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. And I hope you found it interesting and informative. Feel free to leave feedback. Look for the email on Monday, and it's not going to be a spam or a phishing email. Please trust me on that. I wish you all a pleasant weekend. I wish you and your families stay safe and stay fit and healthy. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you.